just to feel good for myself.
It's like in my blood. It's something I do.
Building Bodies, starting Wednesday on TV8.
Steve Oswald, TV8 News Break. Coming up tonight at 6, another cross-burning in Dubuque. This one late last night outside of Dubuque grade school after one man had been arrested in connection with the earlier cross-burnings. A group of Des Moines Democrats rallied this afternoon in the wake of the cross-burnings. We'll tell you what they had to say. And shoppers are going crazy in Des Moines way before Christmas this year. TV8's Jill Lingwall with that story. Now this.
It's live with Regis and Kathy Lee.
And you guys are such an amazing smash hit.
The show you don't want to miss.
Weekdays at 9 on TV8.
An Election Day showdown in the Louisiana governor's race. And Secretary Baker gets a cold shoulder from the Chinese leadership. This is the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer reporting. Good evening. The polls are still open, but in what could be the biggest turnout ever in Louisiana, voters are going to the polls to settle the hottest governor's race in decades. The race that pits Governor Edwin Edwards, the former governor, and former Nazi Klansman David Duke. Eric Engberg is in New Orleans and has the story.
Louisiana voters who had complained for weeks at being forced to choose between flawed candidates finally had to swallow hard and choose someone today. They did so in near record numbers and displaying the deep feelings roused by a contest that was mostly about race.
Blacks going in all the time. They're going in all the time, and they're getting the jobs.
He's got 20 years as a Klansman. It's total fascism against democracy.
Among those who voted for the former Ku Klux Klansman David Duke, the big issue was opposition to the current welfare system, a racially charged issue he had stressed throughout the campaign.
I think you get about 55% of the vote. I think it's time to change it.
The Duke voters told the 4-network polling service, VRS, that they saw a need to shake things up. Many regarded his opponent, Edwin Edwards, as guilty of corruption. A good number of the Edwards voters also consider Edwards corrupt, but they swallowed their concerns.
Actually, I'm voting against Duke.
The exit poll also shows that half the Edwards voters, including mainstream Republicans, were voting not for anyone, but voting against Duke, because they did not think he had really abandoned his Klan past.
See, I'm here to stop Duke. That's why I'm voting today, to stop David Duke.
The heavy advertising blitz by Edwards and his business allies in the last week of the campaign was clearly an important factor. Many of the voters told the pollsters that they were influenced in their choice of Edwards by advertising which said that Louisiana would lose thousands of jobs if Duke was elected. Jobs that would go away because industry wouldn't come here and the tourism business would vanish. Bob?
Eric, that lady just in your piece there who said she was there to stop David Duke. Let's suppose that Duke loses today. Do you think that will stop him?
Well, I think win or lose, David Duke has already won important credibility as a voice on the right on America, in America today, Bob, and I don't think there's any disputing that. He does not see himself as an ordinary politician. He sees himself as the head of a movement that will now forge ahead into other states, trying to capitalize on middle-class white resentments. And he has added thousands of names to his mailing lists and to his contributors lists. And we're going to be hearing more from David Duke, I would think, as early as next year, Bob.
So you're saying you think he'll run for president?
Not necessarily. I think that he may run for Congress. Many of his advisors are already talking about putting him up for Congress in Louisiana next year, from which he could launch a national movement.
All right, Eric, thank you. A reminder that after the polls close at 9 Eastern Time, CBS News will be on the air with a special report just as soon as it becomes clear who's won. What with the stock market's sudden drop yesterday, the other story that's generating a lot of comment this weekend is the economy. Money correspondent Ray Brady now with more on that.
On his way to tee off, President Bush refused to worry.
See what happens Monday. No reason to get all concerned.
You said you've already made investments into both funds right now?
But in Dallas today, Fidelity Investments put on extra people to handle calls from investors who are concerned.
Anytime that you get a downturn such as we had on Friday, although it wasn't all that severe,
the increase in calls hits us, and we need to have more people to handle those calls.
They're calling about yesterday, Black Friday, when this year's bull market abruptly plummeted more than 120 points, its fifth deepest one-day drop ever.
Behind all those calls was one unspoken fear. Back in 1987, the market had another Black Friday like yesterday, but that was followed by a Black Monday in which the market took its worst fall ever, down more than 500 points.
At least one Wall Streeter feels it won't happen again.
I don't think you're going to see a 500-point day on Monday. I think what you are going to see is weakness at the opening.
Friday's plunge was set off by a drop in the high-flying medical and biotechnology stocks, plus fears over a move by Congress to put a lid on credit card interest rates, cutting them from 19% to 14%. That could bring huge losses to the nation's banks at a time when they're struggling under big real estate losses. Senator Alphonse D'Amato, who proposed the legislation, seemed willing today to compromise.
I'm not suggesting that it has to be at the level that I've pegged. It could be, something else, but there has to be elasticity.
You can't legislate a free economy. Carter tried it, and it didn't work. It extended a recession in his period.
Still hanging over the market, though, is the economy itself. Americans still aren't spending, unwilling to spend the kind of money this Christmas that would rev up the economy.
If it's not on sale, I will not buy it. That's it.
If Christmas shopping stays slow, some analysts feel, the stock market may not have yet put all its bad news behind it. Bob?
Ray, Housing Secretary Kemp said tonight that the president will veto any bill that puts a lid on credit card interest rates. Now, what effect do you think that'll have?
I think if Secretary Kemp is right and President Bush would veto that bill, I think that's going to take a lot of pressure off because the market was worried about the mandatory part of that bill. You must keep an interest rate at this level. So I think that's going to be a big help.
All right. Thank you, Ray. Still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, a behind-the-scenes look at political polls and what they tell the politicians, and a new approach to saving the family farm.
Presto has a great idea.
Shoot some slices, shoot some shreds, shoot some salad, salad shooter.
Now Presto has a great big idea. Professional salad shooter slicer shredder. Big capacity, holds a lot, shoots a lot. Powerful, fast, a variety of cutting blades so you can point and slice thick, slice thin, shred right into the bowl, even ripple cut. Chop, grate right where you want. Clean up easy, dishwasher safe, store anywhere.
Salad shooter.
Original, cordless, now professional salad shooter.
Because there's a man planning his retirement. Because there's a family hoping to send their kids to college. Because every investor is different, with dreams all their own, Dean Witter measures success one investor at a time.
We bake pearls made of denture material in this blueberry pie to prove how powerfully Efferdent, America's leading denture cleanser, removes this tough stain, even in between. Efferdent, stronger than stains.
Ford Motor Company. Profiles in quality. Pride.
When you get pride, you get quality. That's what I said back in '81.
And today we still have that same pride.
And from what we hear, a lot of people think we're doing a pretty good job.
You can hear the quality.
You can see the quality.
You can feel the quality in the way it handles.
Thanks.
That's what happens at Ford, Mercury, and Lincoln when quality is job one.
Secretary of State Baker has one last meeting tomorrow with Chinese leaders, but so far the highest-ranking U.S. official to visit Beijing since Tiananmen Square is not meeting with much success. Our State Department correspondent Bill Plant is with Mr. Baker and has our report.
Baker and the Chinese failed to make any progress on the long list of differences between Washington and Beijing, despite the Secretary's warnings that the U.S.-China relationship will be seriously damaged unless China makes significant concessions on human rights, weapons sales, and trade.
This is, as I have said to some of your colleagues, I think a very important visit. We have some difficult issues that we need to discuss face to face.
The Chinese are anxious for an end to the sanctions imposed by the U.S. after their bloody crackdown on pro-democracy demonstrators in Tiananmen Square. But they appear determined not to let the U.S. tell them how to handle their political prisoners, no matter what the consequences.
Mr. Baker said that the United States and China may well go their separate ways.
U.S. officials say Baker explained to each of the leaders he saw today that Congress is determined to take away China's preferred trading status unless it releases its dissidents and agrees to talk about its trade barriers against U.S. imports. But the Chinese just kept talking about different social systems and suggesting that issues which can't be resolved be set aside. The Chinese seem to think that because President Bush believes in keeping up contacts with China, the human rights issue will just go away if they wait long enough. Baker's staff is still hoping for some concessions before he leaves tomorrow, but no one pretends to know how this will end. Bill Plant, CBS News, Beijing.
Prince Sihanouk addressed the Cambodian people today for the first time since his return from exile. Sihanouk said including the Khmer Rouge guerrillas in Cambodia's new government is necessary for the peace agreement. But he said the Khmer Rouge leaders should eventually be tried on charges of genocide.
It's about style. It's about power. It's about control, the security of standard anti-lock brakes. It's about $12,000. The all-new Grand Am Sport Sedan. Excitement with purpose.
Mice. For everyone you see, there may be 15 or 20 that you don't see, and they eat in many different places. A very unhealthy situation. But put Decon Mouseproof in the places mice feed, like behind the refrigerator, the cupboard, the washer, and you'll eliminate them faster. Decon Mouseproof gets mice right where they live.
Do you know what my favorite country is? Country Scent Lysol Disinfectant Spray. It's all the power of Lysol spray in a fresh country scent.
Dear Folgers, I was catering brunch for 950 people when I forgot the ground coffee. Then I was reminded of your restaurant commercials where people were secretly switched to Folgers Crystals. So I tried it. Let's go. I never received more compliments.
Terrific.
You made a believer out of me and a lot of other people.
Folgers Crystals, proven with fresh brewed coffee drinkers.
Thanks, Folgers. Ed Merrigan.
I'm Charles Kuralt. A Beatle turns classical composer. The musical journey of Paul McCartney. This Sunday morning.
About 1,000 elected women officials are meeting this weekend in the wake of the confirmation hearings for Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. Because the Thomas hearings changed a lot of things in America, as well as underlining the powerful new force that is called gender. Well, the woman whose charges provoked those hearings was a featured speaker at that gathering, and we have more on that from Ron Allen.
The women at this weekend's political forum in San Diego not only believe Anita Hill's Senate testimony, they also believe her case of alleged sexual harassment could spark a new women's political movement.
How do we capture our rage and turn it into positive energy?
Anita Hill's appearance at this week's conference reinforced for many women the connection between sexual harassment and political powerlessness.
There definitely is force in numbers, and that's why I want to see women mobilize into a more effective political unit in this country.
And that's why across the country, women candidates are wasting no time, capitalizing on the Anita Hill phenomenon.
When I watch those Senate hearings on TV, it hit me how out of step the Senate is, how out of touch they are.
In California, Congresswoman Barbara Boxer is trying to ride Hill's coattails to the Senate. And donations are still pouring into a political group after this one-day ad in a national newspaper.
There was no voter in this country, male or female, whether they supported Clarence Thomas or not, that couldn't watch those proceedings and watch those 14 white men and realize that this country needed a change.
Jean Lloyd Jones is eyeing one of those jobs, the one that belongs to Iowa Senator Charles Grassley. Jones is a state senator who thinks even conservative voters in middle America will now elect more women.
There are some Republican women who are to the right of Attila the Hun who are ready to go out and put a woman in the U.S. Senate.
I must say that, unless I'm losing my memory, I don't really remember a moment quite this intense.
Still, some worry the moment could fade.
A watershed moment a year away from the election has a long way to go to continue that momentum.
I thank you for your efforts.
For her part, Hill dismissed any suggestion she plans to run for office, but she could still be a huge issue in a lot of races. Ron Allen, CBS News, Los Angeles.
As the political season moved into high gear with today's Louisiana race, we thought it would be a good time to focus on what's become a staple of modern politics, the polls. That's our Washington notebook. Polling. What's predictable? What isn't?
Modern politics could not operate without the prevalence of polls.
The polls, I think, are our best way of understanding what's going on in the voters' minds.
The poll takers were out in force in Louisiana today, asking voters why they voted the way they did. But races like this one, where race and racism are a major factor, are the most difficult assignments that pollsters encounter.
People are reluctant to admit to prejudice. They'll cover it over in the poll or the exit poll. And in a close election, it can be enough to cause the poll or the exit poll to project so-and-so the winner when in fact his opponent wins.
Because voters hid their views from pollsters, David Dinkins' victory in the New York mayor's race was much closer than predicted. The same was true when Doug Wilder won a much closer than expected race for Virginia governor. And until the last week of last year's North Carolina Senate race, polls showed Harvey Gantt leading Jesse Helms. But Helms won handily. In such races, pollsters say white voters more than black voters tend to claim they are undecided, when in fact they are not.
It's a problem, it's real, but you can take it into account if you're a good pollster.
Polling technique is a lot more refined than it was in the days when Harry Truman could make so much fun of a goof in voter projections. But pollsters now face a new problem. They say voters tend to change their minds a lot more than they used to.
They're no longer voting as Democrats or as Republicans. They're voting. Yeah, that affects them, but so does their religion, their occupation, their age.
What that means, pollsters say, is that polling gives a much more accurate fix on how people think long-term about issues than it does about how they think short-term about a particular candidate.
The value in polls really is in sort of diagnosing the election, not predicting it. What did it mean?
When it comes to political polls and when it comes to measurements of presidential popularity, those things are so affected by events that, yes, the shelf life of a poll may only be a few days.
Senator Harris Wofford, who was 44 points down in the polls and won a Pennsylvania Senate seat, agrees. He says his polling never gave him a good read on who was going to win, but was right on target in identifying voter concerns, health care, and unemployment.
I think the poll does help sharpen the message. We're in a mass society, and how do you have democracy, self-government, in a complex mass society? Polls help.
And that can be constructive. The downside, of course, is that some politicians who have no message often use polling to invent one, which sometimes makes for a winning campaign, but does not always lead to good government.
A lot of cars are taking aim at the imports these days. Well, one American car is very much on target. Buick. Here's their latest hit, the all-new 1992 Skylark. Completely redesigned with more power and advanced features like standard anti-lock brakes. Skylark for 1992. It's got everything you've been looking for, plus the one thing only Buick can offer you, Buick quality.
Some days my minor arthritis acts up, and I really feel the pain. I used to take aspirin. Now I've switched to Advil. Advil relieves the pain in my stiff joints. In fact, one Advil is as effective as 2 regular aspirin. And Advil is gentler to my stomach. Maybe that's why doctors recommend Advil for minor arthritis pain more than any other brand. For my pain, I simply prefer Advil. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
This is when I love grape nut cereal. I've been out here all morning, and I'm still going. Does your cereal do this? Try breakfast with grape nuts for a week. I did, and I feel great. Grape nuts is this natural energy source, and it's fat-free. It tastes so good, too. It's hearty. It's got what you need to help keep you going. If you want to feel this good every morning, try grape nuts for a week yourself.
Breakfast with Post Grape Nuts helps keep you going strong all morning long.
It used to be that young people considering their options after high school could virtually count on being able to get a job with the military. Well, not anymore. These days, more and more would-be recruits are finding out that Uncle Sam does not want them. Jim Stewart has our report.
Military recruiters still stalk the hallways of the nation's high schools, but these days it's a buyer's market.
We're looking for a few good men.
Emphasis on the few and the good. As the recession appears to deepen, the military is shrinking by 500,000 over the next 3 years, and minimum standards needed to get in the armed forces have gotten tougher. Result, thousands of young adults are getting a double whammy.
What motivated you to even start thinking about the Army?
Getting laid off from 2 jobs in a row.
Even with the nation's newest auto plant just down the road, jobs are scarce in this part of Tennessee.
I have seen their morale go down, to tell you the truth. Unless they're one of the lucky ones who can go straight from high school and apply at one of our local factories and get a job, then their options are very slim.
High schools like this one in rural Lewisburg, Tennessee have traditionally been gold mines for Army recruiters, with more than 10% of graduating seniors attempting to enlist. But with today's higher standards, more and more kids are finding the door to a military career closed.
I'm going to ask you to...
Only high school grads scoring in the top half of military admissions tests need apply to the services this year. Some colleges don't require as much.
I need to go back and finish my schooling, and once I get that done, my chances are probably pretty good.
It's a big shock to some of them. I can see it when they come through the door or over the telephone, and they'll ask me, when did y'all do this? When did y'all change this?
The overweight, understrength, and even those with a minor police record once had a safety net in the services. Now they're unwelcome.
I've had people cry, and they get real sensitive.
Of more than 600 applicants at this one Nashville recruiting station, just 75 were admitted. A selection process with unknown cost for society, some argue.
The effects on the underclass of America, on the working class of America, are going to be catastrophic. No longer will young people, young men and women, be able to choose a military option as a way of getting out of a dead-end existence.
This year, even the military option was dead on arrival for many. Nearly half of the Army's recruiting goal for fiscal 1992 is already filled, with kids on the waiting list from 1991. Jim Stewart, CBS News, Lewisburg, Tennessee.
Louisiana gubernatorial candidate David Dubuque tried to exploit economic hard times, and our chief political correspondent Bruce Morton has some thoughts on that tonight in his personal commentary.
I keep reading that David Dubuque, who hopes to be elected governor of Louisiana today, is running as a populist. That's wrong. Duke's campaign does use economic resentment, so does populism, but his campaign is also heavily based on race. Populism isn't. The late Republican strategist Lee Atwater defined populism as anti-big. When the candidate is a Democrat, it's usually anti-big business. Franklin Roosevelt ran that way, denouncing what he called economic royalists, malefactors of great wealth. When the candidate is Republican, populism is usually anti-big government. Remember candidate Ronald Reagan? Government isn't the solution, he'd say. It's the problem. President Reagan, of course, increased the size of the government, but his campaign was populist. Surveys by pollsters in both parties suggest that 1992 may be a good year for populism. Voters are angry, mad at government. They feel powerless. That crowd in Washington doesn't care about me. And some surveys suggest they also think government is powerless, unable to cope with the recession and other problems. So you run against that crowd in Washington. Easy enough for the Democrats. Most of their presidential candidates are already running as outsiders, hell-bent on change. Harder for George Bush, the establishment incumbent president. He'll just have to run against the Congress and hope that's anti-enough. What the heck? It worked for Harry Truman. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Washington.
Police in Dubuque, Iowa, are investigating another cross-burning, this one at an elementary school playground. The incident last night came just hours after a young man was arrested and charged in connection with 5 cross-burnings last weekend. A Louisiana drifter has been indicted in connection with the grisly stabbing deaths of 5 college students in Gainesville, Florida last year. 37-year-old Danny Harold Rawlings is already serving a life sentence as an habitual offender following a series of burglaries and robberies committed after the Gainesville slings.
Take the 50 most popular cereals in America. What if you had to choose between them based solely on the side panels? No brand names, no fancy packages, just the plain and simple facts. You'd find only one is low in sugar and a good source of fiber and made from whole grain oats. Cheerios. Compare the side panels and see for yourself. The choice is Cheerios.
He's back. This time we get him. STP gas treatment. Cleans intake valves and fuel injectors to help engines run better. STP, the edge.
Love her, hold her, and remember our simple formula. At Dean Witter,
we measure success one investor at a time.
The world's first dynamo was invented by Werner Siemens in 1866. It began the revolution that brought electricity to everyone. That was then. This is now. The generation, distribution, and control of energy are at the heart of Siemens today, where you work, live, and play. And with 35,000 people at work nationwide, Siemens is leading the way into the next century. Siemens, precision thinking.
America's family farmers are worried about more than just the next harvest. They are worried about preserving a way of life. But in Nebraska, an innovative program is sowing these seeds that could save their future. James Satori has our report.
Oh, I've been out farming out here probably for most of my life.
The daily demands of running a farm have finally caught up 67-year-old Jerry Myers. And like many American farmers today, he's worried about who will take over when he's ready to retire, since his children have long since left for the city.
You kind of like to have it going like it is when you've kind of put some of your life in it.
Oh, dear, it's such a hassle to just sell the whole thing. But didn't want to, really.
Now they've found what they wanted.
Here in Nebraska, a pilot program called LandLink could help sustain the family farm tradition by matching up older farmers nearing retirement with younger farmers struggling to get started.
It's an opportunity. I guess I've always wanted to get started farming on my own.
27-year-old Danny Hart, one of the first to take advantage of the program, is working his way into the Myers family, beginning with an investment of sweat equity. He reaps the benefit of working alongside an experienced farmer. Eventually, he'll own the livestock and run the farm.
We started out on the pigs, and each year Jerry gives me 10 sows. It's kind of a year-end bonus. It's the only way feasible, I suppose, for me to get started farming.
What Myers gets is peace of mind.
Well, you know, if you just sold it, it's hard telling. This way, well, what you kind of build up with, somebody else can carry on with.
Hart and his family are just the start. 200 more aspiring Nebraska farmers are waiting for a similar land link, and the program may be expanded to other Midwestern states in an attempt to stem the tide of disappearing small farms.
Do we expect to turn the system around by ourselves? No. But we expect to try and offer alternatives.
It's a twist on a tradition as old as the heartland, passing a farm not only from one generation to the next, but from one family to another. James Satori, CBS News, Creighton, Nebraska.
And that's the news. Tomorrow on Face the Nation, has the sour economy ruptured relations between the White House and the Republican right? We'll ask a panel of leading conservatives. Until then, Bob Schieffer, CBS News in New York. Jimmy.
Dallas already beat the Giants West this year. I wonder if they can do it again, or if the Giants can rally.
You know, I'm really scared of heights. Keep talking football.
Oh, okay. Dallas is on their way back.
This is CBS.
Coming up next on the TV8 News, live at 6, another cross burning in Dubuque, the fourth one this week.
And Iowa Democrats upset about the cross burnings call for action. Jill Lingwall takes us early Christmas shopping through the crowds at an area mall.
Lots of rain in the forecast. Our chances just don't get any better. We'll have that in just a bit.
And in sports, things went just about the way you would expect today for both Iowa and Iowa State. We'll have those highlights.
TVA News is next.
For suspension or alignment, we use top technology to diagnose the problem, and top technicians to fix it. Nobody beats Midas. Nobody.
Hey, Mikey, let's ask Mom if we can go outside to play.
I don't know. It looks awfully cold out there to me.
Well, let's check Mom's TVA wind chill chart and see just how cold it is.
Okay.
Let's see. With temperatures in the 20s and a 15-mile-an-hour wind factor,
hey, wait a minute. We can't read yet. I know who we should ask.
For your handy wallet-sized chart, just send a stamped, self-addressed envelope to TVA Wind Chill Chart, Box 8888, Des Moines 50301. Or stop by your local John Deere dealer and tell them Connie sent you.
When the night has come, no, I won't be afraid just as long.
If you need help standing by a loved one with Alzheimer's disease, call the Alzheimer's Association. Our helpline provides informational and referral support even if you can't leave home. Call the Alzheimer's Association. We're here to stand by you.
It's 6 o'clock. And now from TV8, Iowa's news leader, Steve Oswald, Sarah Jarvis, Steve Carlin with weather, and Jeff Johnson sports. This is TV8 News, live at 6.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Dubuque police are still on the lookout for a second suspect in the rash of cross burnings in that town.
A 19-year-old man was arrested last night in connection with the cross burnings. David Simpson of Dubuque was arrested at his home and charged with possession of incendiary materials in connection with the burning of 5 crosses last weekend. Simpson's being held on $5,000 bond today. About 11 o'clock last night, police say they found another burning cross, this one in the back playground of the Lincoln Elementary School in Dubuque. No one was injured and no other damage was found. Police also report KKK written on the garage of a woman in northeast Dubuque. That graffiti was written sometime between Thursday night and Friday morning.
Governor Terry Branstad says he's thinking about going to Dubuque sometime later this month or early December to promote racial equality in the city. The governor and his family plan to attend a church service for all religious denominations. The date and the exact details of the service haven't been worked out yet, but the service is expected to focus on community concerns about the cross burnings. Now, Branstad's handling of the incident is drawing some criticism from some Dubuque residents and top state Democrats. At state Democratic press conference today, leaders decried the Dubuque racial attacks and spoke out against Governor Branstad. A state Democratic commission met at the State House today to look at ways to elect a Democrat to the governor's office. Commission Chair Arthur Davis says the governor's been too slow to personally visit Dubuque in the wake of the latest set of cross burnings.
If there were 2 or 3 counties where there was corn damage, the governor would fly out there instantly to see what the damage was to the corn crop. I cannot understand why the governor of the state, when he sees damage to the crop of human beings called our minorities, can't take the time to go out there and attend to that problem.
While Democrats are also calling for tougher hate crime laws, Davis says it's more important for Iowans themselves to take a stand against what's happening in Dubuque.
They are standing in line for more than 2 hours in Louisiana today. They are standing in line to vote. The occasion, the governor's race pitting former KKK leader David Duke against former Governor Edwin Edwards. Among those voting today was Duke, who said he voted Republican. Keith Elkins reports on the election that had voters waiting in line when the polls opened this morning.
3/4 of Louisiana's 2.2 million voters are expected to vote in today's gubernatorial election. The race between former Ku Klux Klan leader David Duke and 3-time Governor Edwin Edwards has been one of the most emotional in the state's history.
No Dukes! No KKK! No fascist USA! Shame! Shame! Shame!
Duke remained optimistic as he voted early today in his suburban New Orleans precinct.
I think it's a new day for Louisiana, and I think it's going to send a message to the whole country that it's about time we can concern ourselves with the middle class, the working people of this country who pay the taxes. We're tired of big government. We're tired of high taxes. We're tired of the welfare system that's not working, and we want a real change, and we're going to get it.
Recent public opinion polls show Edwards leading, but he remains cautious about the outcome.
The pollsters can't tell about his strength because he flies below radar.
Edwards will watch the vote count in New Orleans tonight, while Duke comes to Baton Rouge. Local and state police plan extra security as the emotionally charged election draws to an end. Keith Elkins for CBS News, Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
The polls close tonight at 8 Iowa time. We'll have a full report on the results tonight at 10 here on TV8. 3 people are dead and 2 others are injured in a head-on collision near Urbana, Iowa last night. It happened on Highway 150 west of Urbana. Investigators say a car driven by a 42-year-old man who used to live in Urbana crossed the center line and smashed into a car with 4 Vinton residents. The names of the victims aren't being released. Investigators say the driver of the first car, a 59-year-old woman passenger, and a 62-year-old woman passenger, both in the second car, all died in that accident. None of the people involved were wearing seatbelts.
Des Moines police still have no leads today in the search for a couple who apparently put a 2-month-old baby in a laundromat washing machine. Police spent much of yesterday going door to door around East University Avenue trying to get information about the incident. It happened Thursday night. A cleaning woman at the laundromat discovered the baby in a machine. It was bleeding in the head and wearing only a diaper. She says a man and woman ran in, grabbed the baby, and told her to keep quiet. If you have any information about the incident, you're asked to call the Des Moines Police.
If you've been to one of the local malls over the past few weekends, you've probably found the parking lots and the stores packed there. TV8's Jill Lingwall says that unexpected winter weather may have put shoppers in the Christmas mood just a little early this year.
They want money. They want money.
It's just a mob scene. There's people everywhere.
They want money.
Merchants count on packed malls and long checkout lines around the holidays. But it's not even Thanksgiving yet, and the malls are already jam full of people shopping.
Well, it's been very busy. We're really pleased with the number of shoppers out and also the number of packages they're carrying. That's really great.
Well, lots of merchants say they're very pleased with these early season crowds. Shoppers say they were hoping to beat the Christmas rush, and they haven't been so pleasantly surprised.
I couldn't find a place to park anywhere. It took me about 20 minutes, which is really unusual before Thanksgiving, and people were backing up, and I'm surprised there weren't any accidents.
How did you feel when you got in here and saw all these people?
A little frustrated because I want to get in and get out, and I don't want to wait in line.
Merchants say they don't exactly know why the malls are so busy. Some think people are aware that Thanksgiving is late this year and the traditional shopping season after Thanksgiving is shorter. Most others say they think early November snows put consumers in the holiday spirit.
It makes them think about winter and Christmas. We just came through the Indian summer where it was really warm, and then we had a snow, and it gets them thinking that way.
All the merchants say no matter what's caused the early shopping frenzy, they want it to continue through the holidays. Jill Lingwall, TV8 News.
38 more shopping days till Christmas,
The
Steve.
shopping isn't over yet.
Not yet. Up next on the TV8 News Live at 6, the cornerstone is put in place for the new West Des Moines Fire Station.
And Art in the Park moves inside for the Two Rivers Art Festival. We'll take you there after this.
By now, every smart homeowner knows that a smoke alarm can save your life. But did you also know that it can save money on your homeowner's insurance? As part of Allied's ongoing effort to reduce insurance costs, we've created a series of incentives to help homeowners lower their insurance premiums. Fire and burglar alarms are just one example. So call your Allied Group agent or write to me, Donna Smith, to receive Allied's guide on lowering homeowners' insurance costs. You'll get answers you can trust.
Dear Toro, your CCR Power Light snow thrower reveals a total disregard for the small businessman. A snow thrower that weighs 36 pounds, it handles a foot of snow? What happened to fair trade? Free enterprise? Be assured, if you continue to sell the CCR Power Light snow thrower, you leave me no choice. You will be hearing from my mom.
Check the yellow pages for the Toro dealer nearest you.
You know
the only thing better than one patty all dressed up and looking good. It's two patties all dressed up and looking good. I hear you. Well, you're gonna love McDonald's double patty. Check it out. 2 hot sizzling patties. That's us, honey. Decked out with 2 pieces of melted cheese. Honey, you got great taste in food. Back off, girl. This is mine.
The double patty, just 99 cents. There's more for your money at McDonald's today.
Tonight's TV8 News, live at 6, is being simulcast on KWBG Radio in Boone, 1590 AM and 98.3 FM.
The Chinese graduate student killed by a rival student at the University of Iowa 2 weeks ago was remembered at a memorial service in Iowa City today. 26-year-old Lin Hua-shan died after being shot by fellow Chinese student Gong Lu. Shan was remembered as a hard worker and a friend to many. More than 300 mourners attended that service today. Polk County District Judge Ray Hanrahan is in serious condition tonight in a Des Moines hospital after undergoing surgery for an undisclosed problem. A spokesman for the hospital says that Judge Hanrahan was admitted Monday. Judge Hanrahan is in the hospital's surgical intensive care unit.
A long-awaited facility dedicated in West Des Moines today. Firefighters say they've been waiting 15 years for a second fire station in West Des Moines. The newly completed firehouse number 2 has been open for service all week. And in a special ceremony today, the Masons dedicated the cornerstone of the facility. The West Des Moines Fire Chief says more than 30 volunteer firefighters will work out of the new facility, and today's ceremony highlights the importance of the new fire station for the city of West Des Moines.
It's something that's been needed for some time, and we finally have gotten it. And we've got a training facility. We had seen the 5-story burn building out back. There's going to be all sorts of training done here, and we have classrooms, we have dormitories, kitchens, and it's built for the future.
West Des Moines firefighters will be holding an open house for the public from 2 to 4:30 tomorrow afternoon.
About 150 artists from across the nation are in Des Moines tonight for the 4th annual Two Rivers Art Expo. This year's event is billed as the Winter Art in the Park, but of course it's inside with no threat of autumn rain or snow. The artists are bringing out their best. In addition to the traditional art, there's plenty of contemporary work and hands-on activities for children. There's no central theme to the art show, just a chance to showcase the talented artists of the Midwest.
It just takes hard work, and I guess we try to emphasize a quality to it, and I think in our work and trying to just organize it, we try to create a quality, and I think that's presented in the artists that are represented here.
The Art Expo runs through tomorrow from 11 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon, and there is a small admission fee.